All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Zarina Elamine, and I am the founder of Book Power Publishing and the At Their Feet project. So, this is a project where we are sitting at the feet of Black Muslim pioneers and elders to learn their stories, their experiences, to glean their wisdom, if you will. So, they have been gracious enough to give us some of their time to talk about their lives, to talk about the things that they've learned so that we can all be better in our own lives, right? This particular project, At Their Feet, started when my father asked me a few years ago to interview him and some of his friends. He was like, "Hey, ZB, I want you to interview me and some of my friends." And I was like, "Okay, that'll be fine." But what if we made it a bigger book and we had other people that either submitted a story, right? Or people interviewed an elder in their community and submitted their story. So that's what we've been doing over the last 2 years almost now. Um, we have been gathering stories and interviewing people. And I'm so thankful to Dr. Elisa Perkins. She is out of Kalamazoo. She's a professor at Western Michigan University, and she also is one of the project managers. I don't know her formal title at Dream of Detroit. And they've been doing a project around the same type of oral history, capturing people's stories and interviewing elders, particularly for her case in the Detroit Muslim community. And so, thank you to Dr. Elisa for interviewing some people and sharing that information with us. And thank you to Aya. Aya is one of our research assistants. So, she interviewed people from Atlanta and some other places as well and put their stories in. So, I was really super duper pleased with that as well and excited and happy. Fatima is one of our editors who's been going over some of the material as well. And Sister Yumna, Brother Omar, he doesn't know this, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, but I decided to bring on Sister Yumna to do the cover for At Their Feet. So she is going to be doing the artwork for At Their Feet. So the book is almost done, you guys. It's almost done. It's been a little, I mean, like everything that's not your primary focus, sometimes it gets kind of pushed to the side, and that's kind of what happened. I'll be honest. We were doing it little by little, but I was doing other stuff as well. But I'm excited to say that the book is in the final stages and it will be out very, very soon. So, very, very soon. So, today, you all, I would love for you all to let us know where you're joining us from. This is At Their Feet. We're going to be sitting today with Brother Omar, who is a soldier, if you will. So we'll talk about what that means, what being a soldier means, and what someone who just, like is a constant giver, like what that looks like as far as giving, and supporting a plethora of different projects throughout his life, like what that looks like and why he does it. So, if you have any questions while we're going through today's interview, feel free to drop those questions into the comment box and we'll be able to see them here. If you see something that interests you, let us know that as well. If you hear something that interests you, let us know that as well. Hey, Sheikh Khalid, assalamu alaikum. So, okay, I'm going to bring in Brother Omar. That way he can see everybody who's here. All right. So, without further ado, I want you all to please welcome Brother Omar. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Omar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Woo! All right, Brother Omar. So, I met you here in Michigan. That's where we met, but you're not from here originally, right?
That is correct.
So, where were you born? Where were you from?
I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, actually Hempstead Hospital out in Long Island. And I grew up and did most of my schooling in Jamaica, Queens.
So, what kind of family were you born into? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, my situation is probably something that some people know about, some people don't know about. At 3 years old, my original mother, for some reason, gave me up, and there was a lady that took me in as a 3 months old. I think it was 3 months old, And she raised me and probably 8 or 9 other children during that time, 50s and the 60s. And she raised us because I believe at some point in time she couldn't have children. And most of my bringing up and raising was from this mother that took me in and raised me to see the world the way I see it now. Very, very beautiful, gracious woman, very loving woman, kind woman, giving woman, and very humorous.
Was she related to you by blood at all?
No, not at all. Not at
Mm.
all.
Did you ever find any of your blood relatives?
You know, you hit a good question. uh, I came into the Nation of Islam. What I heard the teaching of Nation of Islam in 1968, and second year in college, I came into the Nation of Islam, and I met my brother, my physical blood brother,
Whoa.
and that was an eye opener. And we were in communication
Wait.
during that
How did
time.
y'all meet? How did you meet? Like, how
we
did?
we were in the temple together, and somebody came up to me and said, there's a guy over here named Gary, and he favors you. He was very light skinned and I was brown skinned, and he said he favors you. So he introduced me to him. We got to talking, and lo and behold, we connected that we were physical biological brothers. And then he connected me to my sister. He connected me to my birth mother, and
Wow.
that's how I got connected back to them. But over the years, I lost contact again.
Mhm. Mhm. So I'm assuming. So you knew since you were little that you were adopted, right? It was not hidden from you.
Definitely not hidden. No, definitely not hidden.
Okay. So what was that like getting reunited with this family and then find out like you have all these blood relatives and such that's been living parallel lives the whole time?
Well, Serena, what you're asking is really a book in itself, and I don't know if I'll have the time in this interview or in my life to unravel that.
Mm.
But when you're raised with another family, and that family showers love on you, takes care of you, and give you the things that your original parents couldn't do for whatever the reasons, you have an attachment to them as family. And because you don't know your biological mother, you don't know your biological siblings, you don't really have a connection in terms of the social aspect.
Mhm.
So I guess that's why the contact was lost, because I never really had a connection.
Got it. Yeah, you need to write this down, Brother Omar. Tell your story. Write this down. I mean, you can help a lot of people that have been adopted or people that are thinking about adopting and all of those types of, interesting families.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, what was the spirituality like in your adopted family? In your family?
The spirituality basically was, connected to Christianity, but it was connected in a way that you could see hints of Islam based on, doing the right thing, taking pride in what you do. And if you're going to start a task and you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. And there was just certain things that were giving, that made us realize that not only was there a creator, but you're going to be accountable, for things that you're doing. So there was a consciousness spiritually that, you have to be conscious in life of what you're doing and where you're going. And, it was a moral aspect, a great moral aspect in the rearing and the raising.
So you had like that solid foundation. So when did you start like spiritually searching? Were you searching consciously, or did it Islam and the Nation of Islam and these types of things just come to you?
I was always searching as a youngster, because I was an avid reader. I was a book collector, and I read books like Stolen Legacies, From Superman to Man. I read a lot of books on that level. and I had a very large book collection that I was seeking. I was searching, seeking, because I realized that there was a disconnect somewhere, but I couldn't put my hands on it at that time, on where the disconnect actually existed, until I continued to, study and research. And when I came into Islam, I kind of like started putting the pieces together on what the search was about.
Mm. So you were internally, you had some internal feelings, but I don't know if I know if I see how, like, can you describe like what, so this, the reason I'm asking this is because currently right now, like I have some internal questions that I'm working through, like some spiritual questions, if you will, that I'm working through. So some people could say that I'm searching, so, and when I talk to people, that have come into Islam and such, some of them mentioned that there was just a longing, like an internal longing for God. They don't know why it came or whatever. They just had this internal longing. Some people say that they feel like they were going through a hard time, and then that's what led them. So for you, like you weren't going through any hard time or whatever. It was just like an internal drive to get closer to God. Is that what we can kind of say?
I know what my longing and what my searching was for, based on the lifestyle that I was living, the things that I was doing, and the fast lane that I was living in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And my longing and searching was that all the things that I was doing to destroy myself, and all the things that I was doing, living in the fast lane with the wild life and the parties and the drugs and all of the things that I was doing, I knew for certain that that was not the path that I wanted to be on. And that path that I was on was basically total destructive. So I always had a longing that what I was doing, it wasn't the things that I wanted to do. It's just, as you're young, when you're young, you got a lot of peer pressure. You have a lot of environments that you're in that are influencing you. So you gravitate towards certain things that's not of your best interest.
Mm.
So I knew at a very early age that the things that I was doing, I was a victim of my environment, and I was a victim of my peer pressure, peer group, because there was no guidance, there was no moral compass, and you just do anything that you thought was gratifying, and you did anything that you thought that was the things that were basically, what do you call, satisfying your nafs, right?
Self-satisfying, yeah.
Yeah, self-satisfying, self-gratification things. So I knew that those things weren't the things that that I needed to be doing. And the longing was always something driving me towards changing my life. And I came one day face to face with reality that either I'm going to stay on the path that I'm on in self-destruction, or the death angel is going to come visit me. That was the reality that really rocked me, and made me to make a firm decision to change.
Wow. So I'm going to come back to this moment of change and how that came about for you, whether it was Islam directly or there's something else that came in between. But I have a question surrounding, like the going to a different path, because, you describe your family with this moral compass. They had a moral compass. There were good things that were put in you from the family, perspective of how you were raised. But then the street life, of course, was different than that. And you made a decision at an age, right, to go towards that street life. And this is what we have now as well. Like we're losing some of the young Muslim children that grow up in the mosque, right, around this moral compass. Like they could choose another way, but they are going in this other direction. And we pray that they have a change and they come back, but you don't know really. So I'm wondering for you, right, like having this family that has some good values and such that were steeped in you, like, why do you think you got lost?
Well, the real significance of being lost and not having any direction, I believe, is the social, economic, and educational environment that I came through. And that environment, I believe, didn't really give me the anchor that I needed to be productive. And I think that when you taught things that you can't identify with as a human being, and you're getting the history and the greatness of everybody else and what everybody else could accomplish, it kind of like keeps you in a position where you're not identifying with what your potential is, and you're not identifying with what you have the capability to do and what you have the capability to achieve through this distorted process of, you know, the economics, the social and the educational aspect of, you know, how we grew up.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you had this moment of change. You hit like what we will call your rock bottom, if you will, where you're facing, looking at, look, dude, like I'm at the fork in the road. I'm either going to stay on this path or I'm going to end up with the angel of death. And you decided to clean it up. So talk to me a little bit about that change for you. Was it Islam directly or was it something else first?
It was something else. It was something else. While I was wilding out at 14, 15, 16, 17, my brother was a low down scoundrel junkie, you know. And, you know, I used to watch them, you know, shoot up heroin in my mother's basement. And I used to see them, you know, destroying themselves with the drugs and, you know, the same type of lifestyle that I was actually involved in. I didn't go to the extent of heroin because I never liked the needles. But everything else, the paraphernalia, trust me, I've been a rocket scientist in that area. But what led me to change? My brother, in the lowest depths of what a human being can go through in the drug world, he got locked up. He went to prison. He went upstate to Greenhaven, and he heard the message of Islam through the Nation of Islam. And he probably got maybe 10 to 15 years for whatever crime he had committed at that time. And eventually, when he came home, I don't think he did the whole 10 to 15. He might have did, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years. He came home. And when I seen him, I couldn't believe what I seen. You know, he was like, you know, shining like brand new money. I mean, he was clean. He was fit. He was just a whole different human being. And as a young person, you know, I'm looking at this from where he was. And then when he came home, I said, whatever this man heard and whatever changed him the way he is, I got to pick that up and I got to take that to the next level. So when I seen that, I started, I used to see brothers out there selling the Muhammad Speaks newspapers. I used to buy the paper, and then I used to have, like, in the dining room of our home, I used to take the newspaper, I used to take the Bible, I used to take the Quran, I used to take different books and I spread it out on the table, and I would read and study 8, 9, 10 hours a day. every day.
Mm.
And I did that from the 10th grade of high school when I first heard about Islam and I seen him come home. And I did that from the 10th grade to the second year of law school is when I took my Shahada. So what I'm saying is that, once I seen what I seen, which was the sign for me, I immediately grabbed it and I took it another step further. I started studying and researching. And like I said, it wasn't just an hour a day, 2 hours a day. It was like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And from that point on, it gave me a grip on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to take my life. And eventually, 4 or 5 years later, from 10th grade, I had 2 more years in high school. And then I had 2 years in law school. That's 4 years. And then I came into Islam through the Nation of Islam.
Wow. Whew. Thank God for the cleanup process, for your brother, and then you watching him, that saved you. But sometimes I think about the fact that, like, you were young, right? Like, you're a teenager, you're in 10th grade, seeing this huge change in your brother, and then that is, forcing you to make a change for yourself. And I'm saying this, I'm pointing this out because of the age. Now, a lot of times people think that teenagers don't have the capability to make any type of good decisions for themselves at that young age. They feel like they're still very young. They can't really, like, they're not really serious and not adults, blah, 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 blah. And time again, I'm hearing about these big spiritual changes that are happening in the teen years, in the
Mm,
teen years.
mm.
So I don't know, like, do you see any differences between the youth today and how you guys, like, was 15 at your age in your time really like 25 and 15 now is 15? Is there a difference between how you see youth today and youth back then?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Back then we were more advanced in
Yeah,
terms of
why?
our, well, because we were exposed to things that was more productive and more beneficial. Today, what the youth are exposed to with the rap music and Instagram and Facebook and all these distractions and all this rhetoric of self-decadence and denying what you have inside. This is the big difference. See, we had things that we could relate to. Even the music that we listen to back there is nothing like the destructive stuff that's going on today. So we were very advanced in our outlook. We were very advanced in in taking a position or making a decision on what we wanted to do, because we were exposed to things that gave us a sense of responsibility, and we knew that if we made a decision based on the information that we had, that we was going to come out on top, basically. But that's not here today.
Hmm. It's very interesting. So, all right. So you had this, epiphany, this change, and then you studying and in law school. That's when you decided to accept Islam formally. That's when you came into the nation in law school or such. Now, I know, like, when I was talking about you, everybody kept saying, "Yeah, he's a soldier." He's a soldier. What do they mean by calling you a soldier? Tell me about what that means to you.
Okay, what that means to me, there's four brothers that I connected with during this stage of growth and development. And what we committed ourselves to is what gave us the title of soldier, of doctors, of what we were doing. And those brothers were Sheikh Khalid Amin,
Who is
uh,
here this evening, I should say. He's watching us live from Medina,
Alhamdulillah,
Saudi Arabia.
right? Nilain Muhammad, uh, Salim Majaid, uh, and countless brothers, you know, Mark Shahir, and countless brothers in California, Chicago, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, San Francisco, all across the country, Florida, all across the country. There were a group of brothers that were cold soldiers because we picked up something that we call our sword. And that sword was the word that we were promulgating and propagating through Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And we dedicated our lives in the battlefield when we came to realize through Sheikh Khalid, who was basically the emir or the leader of the group in New York, we would be in the trenches, in the battlefield, 7 days a week, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, inviting our people and inviting humanity to something better than what I just expressed to you of what my life was about. You know, we was inviting them to moral excellence. We're inviting them to decency. We're inviting them to truth. We're inviting them to all the things that can uplift you. And we dedicated our lives as soldiers for 50 years, and it still haven't stopped. You know, we're still on the same battlefield as soldiers. And we pray that Allah will take us out of here in this state of soldiering, because this is what we ate, slept, and drank, you know, for years. And we did this all across North America, Canada, Mexico, the Caribbeans. And the thing that's most important in what I'm explaining now as being soldiers is that there's a history that we have as a community that we must tell, because if we don't tell it, number one, it's not going to be told. And number two, if we don't tell it, they're already rewriting it the way they want to tell it on what they're doing. And they don't even want to see the light of day of what we sacrifice to establish the flag of Islam in America without getting cut, without getting stabbed, without getting shot. Because we know through this journey and through this history of what I'm explaining now, many people didn't come through without bodily injuries. When they stood up for this, when they stood up for Islam, when they stood up for La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, a lot of lives were lost. A lot of lives were destroyed. And as you know, through the COINTELPRO, they tried to even destroy the whole concept of a nation of Islam or Black Panthers. I mean, they destroyed the Black Panthers. They killed most of them beautiful brothers that were doing what they were doing. But this history of where we evolved from, like what I shared with you in my personal life, we evolved from so many things that the world actually witnessed what we evolved from when we came into the Nation of Islam, and we transformed to accepting the life of the Sunnah, the Prophet, and practicing that. That in itself is a whole history. And that history, most people don't know, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made and brought that about so that the whole world can see that he can bring anything from nothing into something.
From nothing into something. Now keep looking over here, because I want you to tell us about Sheikh Khalid's book real quick that discusses some of what you're talking about, the practices and such that you all used. So this is a book that you were a instrumental part of making this book come out. So this is Sheikh Khalid Amin, Dawah, The Lost Art of the Call of Islam, a physical, spiritual, and social healing. And that's just what you're talking about as far as you all being soldiers out there in the battlefield, if you will, pulling people, talking to people, like trying to clean up their minds and clean up the society. So can you tell us a little bit about this book and project? And then I want to get into like how you came from the nation into Orthodox, like how that came about for you.
Sure, that's very good. I like the way you segued that. That was very nice. That was very good. Um, First, what I want to say is that that book would not be possible unequivocally if we didn't have a team as your team with the professionalism, with the detailedness, with the oversight of making that book happen. And because of that special gift of being able to make that book a reality, it went uh, it went number one bestseller in a very short time. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I actually did not see that, but yay.
Yes, it went number one bookseller. It went into different parts of the world: Bosnia, Australia, Philippines, Mecca and Medina, Jerusalem. I mean, not Jerusalem. It went quite a few places throughout the world. And what was so beautiful about this project and the way we were directed and how we were, guided to do this through that special team that you have. This book will be the foundation and the blueprint of how Dawa is given for the next 100 years or more because of the time and the effort and the price that was paid over 50 years to bring about a book that you can actually read that explains what Dawa is and what the content and how Dawa should be performed. This will be a blueprint that people will benefit from spiritually, mentally, and physically because the ingredients in the book leaves a window of 100 Dawa points that people can benefit from if they're interested in getting into the field of Da'i or getting into the field of inviting people to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a detailed book that gives insight into many sacrifices and diligence that produce many shahadas across the country and actually gave some real insight into what dedicating your life for a bigger and a higher cause. And I want you to try to get me back on track because I don't want to go too far off. But the question about the book, let me have that again so I can make sure I can link
So so I would say, this particular book, Dawa, the Lost Art of the Call of Islam, is by one of the members of the group that you mentioned, the leader of the group, Sheikh Khalid Amin, who's now in Saudi Arabia. But you're talking about the fact that I asked you like why you were called a soldier, why they always say like he's a soldier, and you talked about the fact that you all were on the battlefield, dedicating your life into helping other people clean up their lives. Like you saw what it did for you, you saw what it did for other people, and then you dedicated and sacrificed in order to help other people come into this beautiful way of life so that they can live better, live cleaner, live happier, live more in accordance with their true human spirit. So you're talking about this particular blueprint that has been put out. But what I found very interesting from my perspective, like watching you all with that project, you know, you were my main contact with that particular with that project. And I'm watching you as a man, as a brother, as a friend of Sheikh Khalid, you know, the author, and I'm watching you like be in this amazing supporting role, right? And I had to say, because some people get really caught up as far as titles or as far as like who's getting accolades or whose name is on such and things of this nature. And I never saw any of that, you know, from you. I never saw any of that. And you have supported a lot of different projects. So I'm wondering, like, is that just a part of your personality, the natural humbleness or the natural ability to play a really strong supportive role?
Well, you hitting on some real good points, and I just hope that I can follow through, because I mean, your perspective and your I mean, you should even go into journalism, because you know what to say. Um, my my position as a Muslim, and as a brother, and as a friend, as a colleague, as a companion, we in the Nation of Islam had very strict code of conduct. And one of the moral codes of conduct is that we don't backbite, we don't commit fornication and adultery, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't lie, we don't cheat. And these codes of conduct brought about a social bond with the brotherhood and the sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
And that bond that we establish in the little Nation of Islam, who people say, oh man, y'all got fake Islam. Y'all ain't no real Muslims. Y'all ain't got no, y'all don't know the deen. But the thing is that maybe we didn't have all of the pieces. But what we did have was the spirit of soldiers, that what we heard, we believed in it. What we heard, we carried into the practice. And what we heard, we wanted it for others.
Mm.
We wanted it for others. And we sacrificed our daily economic, social, family life. If I'm telling you that we were out in the streets every day, 7 days a week, rain, hail, snow, earthquakes, 10 below zero in Chicago, every day. That should tell you something. And that's why I say it's the blueprint for the next 100 years for anybody that wants to do dawah and wants to be a da'i and wants to understand how to communicate and get the message to humanity. Now, Sheikh Khalid was the master in this arena. And he was the one that inspired us, along with Abdullah Nafis. And like I said, it started out with 4 brothers in New York: Sheikh Khalid, Sheikh Nilain Muhammad, Salim Majaid, and myself. We were the picture of the couriers in New York. And when we left New York with one bus ticket, one way, no baggage, no suitcases. Trust me. And when we got to Chicago in January, and you get that wind coming off Lake Michigan, it ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. And it stays like that until maybe March, April, May. And we rolled into Chicago. This is why the brothers keep saying soldiers. These are the soldiers, because they know that you had to pay a price to be out in sub-degrees. You can't feel your hands, you can't feel your feet. The tears come down on your face and they freeze up. This is the meaning of soldier. We gave everything. We didn't hold back nothing. We gave it all for dawah, for fi sabilillah, for the pleasure of Allah, of loving what he gave to us. And we wanted to give it to others. And like I said, we were blessed with your team and your expertise and your professionalism to bring that book into reality and to have that book all over the world and to have it throughout America. And it's not over yet because it's still up on Amazon. And I hope that anybody that is listening to this interview tonight with this beautiful sister, Serena, who's right on point, the book is still available, and we want everyone to benefit from whatever they can receive from this book, this work, this sacrifice, and this love for Allah, this love for Prophet Muhammad and all the prophets that came in this world to try to bring humanity back from the madness that we see every day that's going on right now as we speak.
The madness. It's madness all over the world, and it's madness in our backyards. It's, a lot going on at this particular moment, a lot going on. So with this whole notion of like, let's jump now to 2022, right? We're in 2022. You guys did your work. I'm not saying your work is over because you're still doing, work or whatever, but it also is a point where people have to pick it up, right? The youngsters who still can move and, be out there and do all this stuff. Like, it's time for them to pick it up or such or whatever. I'm wondering from your perspective, like, what do you see is missing right now from the Muslim community in relationship to, one, cleaning itself up, and then two, getting and cleaning up those around them?
The real significance of what we see today in 2022 with the Muslim world and our immediate Muslim community is that everybody wants to be chiefs and nobody wants to be Indians. And you and I and the community at large will never accomplish what we can accomplish divided. This group over here, that group over here, this person with this person with that. No, we all have to be on the same accord. We all have to be in a unified position. Quite naturally, we have different methodologies, we have different strategies, we have different thoughts on how we do things, and that's fine. But if we don't have, as a collective community, unity for supporting one object, one goal, one destiny, and I can give you a very small example of that. Every year after Ramadan, we have Eid. We have two celebrations of Eid. Mm-hmm. Every year throughout the Islamic community, we have something that we have to gather together as a community and perform our obligations, our religious obligations. Mm-hmm. So what my thought is that when I ride around Detroit, when I ride around Houston, Texas, when I ride around different cities that I've been in over and over and over and over again, and I see all of these abandoned buildings, it's just sitting there for 10, 15, 20 years, just sitting there. I mean, brick, nice buildings. And there are people sleeping on the streets. There's veterans out there sleeping under bridges. There's people out there, quite naturally, some of them have mental issues and so forth and so on. But my point is this: during these celebrations that we have throughout the Islamic year, we should be in every major city as a Muslim community, leasing out Yankee Stadium, leasing out Staple Arena, leasing out all of these big arenas as a Muslim Jamaat, and come together with our collective power and solve some of these issues from a decadent, dying society that we see all around us every day. Just dying, decadent. And once we come together as a unified body of Muslims and address the issue, we can have an impact on the whole world on solving problems like what I'm discussing in homelessness and, all the other issues that we have the ability with what we have to solve.
Mhm. We have the ability with what we have right now to solve these issues and such, meaning that we don't need a whole lot more than what we already have. Like we have the resources in our hands. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly what I'm saying, Serena. Exactly. We have the resources and the ability.
And the ability. So, like looking over your experience, looking over your life, all the things that have, made you um, to who you are right now. Like, what do you feel is your biggest lesson learned?
Well, one of the things that I know for surety in learning lessons is that, we have shortcomings, we have faults, we commit sins, whether we want to admit it or not. But with those shortcoming faults and sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a window, many windows of opportunities to repent and to clear the path or the way for whatever the shortcomings or the faults or the sins may be. It gives us many windows and many doors of opportunities to address that. So what I've learned, the lessons that I learned over the years, is that no matter where you're at with your issues, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the capacity to forgive whatever we are engaged in and whatever our shortcomings are. And we know for surety that he says that the only sin that he doesn't forgive is associating partners with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned over the years and the lessons that I learned that it's never too late to take advantage of any good opportunity to do good and to exemplify the best of what we have, even though we may come up short. You know, we may come up short on many directions or many avenues, but what we have in recognizing that the Creator has given us what we need and has given us the things, the tools that we can not only correct the things that may be inside of ourselves, but we also can correct the things that's around us and outside of us. These are the lessons that I have been very grateful to learn that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving, most merciful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do something and you repent again and again and again and again and again, he'll repent, he'll accept your repentance and you have like a new start.
Mm-hmm. So never give up, never give up. Always strive to do your best and, stop doing the things that are wrong, but never, when we fall off, like never give up and feel like you're too far gone, or such. I think that's a really big point, really big takeaway I'm taking from you. But one is like, like you describe your brother, right? Like he was gone. Somebody would have thought that dude would, like he was gone. And then he came back, right? Like he came back. He was cleaned up. He
You
came
did it.
back.
You hit it
Yeah.
right on the head. You hit it right on the head. You hit it. That's the lesson there. That's the big lesson.
That's
Yes. Yes. Now you said you wanted to do something before we went into what we just did was
Oh, yeah.
connecting.
I kind of asked it in a different way, but it was just about, how you came into moving over from the nation into, did you, in your transition from the nation into Sunni Islam, did you follow, actually it's two questions I have. One is that, like, did you follow the mass conversion under Imam Warfdi Muhammad? Is that how you came into Sunni Islam?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we'll talk about that another day, you all, as far as like that mass conversion, if you will. But I have another question about just the practical side, because I'll tell you, like when you talk about the sacrifices that you all had to make, you talk about being out there on the street 8, 9, 10 hours, you know, in all of these different types of weather and such. As a businesswoman, I'm like, how are they living? Like, how are they living? How are they making money? How are they actually funding like these lives or such? Like, I can't see the practical side of it. I don't get it yet. I don't know how it actually works. I don't get it.
Well, let me just tell you a little story. I was in Memphis, Tennessee this weekend, and I went to Walmart's and I bought two oranges, an apple, and two bananas. And the lines were all outside the door. I couldn't. All the lines, people got the packs, carts packed. And, you know, every line that I looked at, 10, 15 lines, they all packed. So I said, either I'm gonna put this back because I ain't standing this dang on line, or I'm gonna walk up and ask somebody, can they let me up? I only got 2 items, can you let me in? So I went to a couple of people, the woman looked at me like she was crazy. She probably was standing there 15, 20 minutes. I walked away from her. I walked to another lady and I said, can I get in? Because you know, this is all I got. And she looked at me all crazy and she did, but she didn't. So the lady in front of her heard me and said, well, come on, honey, you can get in front of me. I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So when we got up to the cashier, I put my stuff down and then I told her, come on up, come on up. I said, put your stuff down too. So as we went to the checkpoint, I just told her I'm gonna pay for everything. So she said, oh, son, thank you. She said, God works in mysterious ways. I said, yeah, he do work in mysterious ways, but he also work in real ways. I said, that's true. That's true. So I'm tying this into the question that you asked.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wrap your head around on what we were doing, but this is the mysterious ways that Allah works. And in terms of providing and giving you what you need is the real way of how Allah works. So we stayed in YMCAs, we stayed sometime in hotels, and I can remember sometimes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we slept outside the hotel in the grass. We didn't even go into the hotel. But the point that I'm making is that the sacrifices and all the things that you do for the pleasure of your Lord, he says he will send resources from above you, from beneath you, and from all around you. So we never went hungry. We didn't have a place to stay. We never had enough what we call bullets, which was our paper. We always had bullets, our sword.
I love it.
In any city we went into, we was provided for.
Wow.
Any city, and we've been to all of the cities. We was provided for, and we had everything that we need to stay out in those streets 8, 9, 10 hours a day, inviting people to truth and righteousness and moral excellence. So that's what most people will never understand. And that's the sacrifice that people want to come up. Like I said, the history, if we don't write it and tell it, somebody already is writing it right now. They're going to tell it the way they want to tell it. Like in Dearborn, you know, they got Dearborn Museum, the Muslim Dearborn Museum, and they got all kind of stuff telling what they did when they got here. And if you go around the country, they got other places that I've heard of that's doing the same thing. They're telling their history and they're putting up museums showing what they did since they've been here. But what we did when we was named Muhammad, you ain't gonna call me no damn Mo. When we was called Ra'id, you ain't gonna call me no damn Rod. When my name was Mustafa, you ain't gonna call me no Mus. You gonna call me Muhammad Abdullah. You gonna call me Salahuddin. You gonna call me Omar Mimrah. You ain't add nothing to it. You ain't taking nothing from it. You gonna call me what it is.
Mm.
And we did that all over the country. We seen brothers when we was moving with the spirit downtown Chicago. We seen brothers, we give them salam, they tell us hello. They
Mm.
were scared. They were scared to say wa alaikum salam.
Mm.
We coming down the street, fired up, the soldiers. And we never backed up off of our commitment to the spirit of promoting what Allah has given us. We never backed up off of it, and we will never back up off of what we've been blessed with. And like I said, from nothing to something.
From nothing to something. Truth, moral excellence, and the spirit of what Allah has given you. Yes. Well, alhamdulillah. So let me see if we have any questions here. If you all have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat box about anything that we've discussed here. If you have questions about the nation, questions about being out there, talking to strangers, if you will, about Islam, about spirituality, what I can say is that literally you guys have talked to thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people over the span of the last 5 decades or whatever. And I mean, it's innumerable. You can't even count. You cannot even count like what type of impact that makes. Like I think about many of the people that I hear that came into Islam and the transition in their own life. One from, as you described for yourself, right? Like from being a lost found, if you will, or being lost and then being found and then coming into a new way of life that totally changed your entire existence, like cleaned you up, cleaned you up, like rinsed you off, cleaned you up, made you a whole new person. And then you going and helping people to come in and do that same thing for them. I mean, it's actually, it's immeasurable the type of impact just on one person. If one person's life gets cleaned up and they are saved, if you will, like from what you've done, like how you have been, and then doing that to somebody else. I mean, that's a whole society. It's a whole society. So
Allah says that if you save one person, as if you save the whole humanity, and if you killed one person unjust, it's like you killed all of humanity. So that one-on-one interaction with people every day is so special because they see you there every day. And they want to know what is convincing this man to be out here in 90-degree weather, sub-degrees below zero weather. What is motivating this man or this person to do this?
Mm-hmm. Gotta be something special, because gotta be something. So, all right. So my aunt asked, hello, Aunt Caroline. She said, what is the title of the book? And it is Dawah, The Lost Art of the Call of Islam by Sheikh Khalid Amin. You can get it on Amazon and pretty much any place that books are sold. You can purchase the book. It's really nice, succinct, but gives a lot of, as he said, it's the blueprint for how to call people into a life that is better for them. A life that can clean them up. And I have to say, for a lot of people who have social anxiety and such, just the thought of talking to some stranger, talking to a stranger alone gives people a lot of anxiety. Like, I got to talk to somebody that I don't know. And then you're actually talking to them about spiritual stuff, like the real things that people think about in the middle of the night that they don't really talk about, like those type of things. So I can imagine you got to be a special type of personality to deal with all the rejection, the stuff that people calling you crazy, like all the stuff that comes with putting yourself out there and talking to strangers about this way of life or whatever, when not everybody is always receptive. But what I do hear too from this, and I'm like, now like my mind is like firing off because I'm hearing all these different things are coming to me. But like when I'm thinking about you all going out there and you think of like the law of numbers, if you will, right? So you have, let's say you talk to 100 people And in the beginning, you know, you may have landed with 2 of those 100 people. Like out of the whole 100, you got 2 people that were real solid or whatever. And as you
Absolutely.
all, you know, got better with your techniques, it may have gotten to 10 people, then it got to 15 or whatever out of that
Absolutely.
100. But
Absolutely.
the sacrifices, or I mean the being able to deal with the rejection and the people kind of like calling you crazy and putting you down, I think that that takes a special type of personality. But did you guys, this would be my last question for you, because I don't want to keep you too long, but maybe my second to last question. But did you guys, like, how did you work on just building up your own sense of self to deal with the negative part of doing this type of work, like from others, from outside?
Well, there's two things, and I would just want to say something real briefly, and I'll answer that. I was in a town one time called Whalings, West Virginia. I believe the town was 98.9 Caucasian. I went into the town. I had a bundle of papers with me in a shopping bag. I went to the police station, and the police chief was sitting behind the desk. And I said, I just arrived in your town, and I would like to go downtown and distribute these papers I have in my bag. He said, can I see one? I said, sure. So I handed him one. He took the paper. He looked at it. He said, no problem. Go ahead. I went downtown, Whaling, West Virginia, 98.9% Caucasian. I was in that town. I think I had about 50 papers. I was in that town for about an hour, no more than 2 hours. And every person that came up and took that paper, mind you, the paper was probably about 50 cents at that time. Every person that came up to take that paper gave me $1, $2, $3, $5. And I was in that town like just maybe a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours, because all the papers were gone. Mm. Now, if I took that same 50 papers to Philadelphia, I would have to be out there getting what you just said, all the rejections and all the no's for 8 hours. Mm. And maybe after 8 hours, I probably would finish selling all 50 papers after getting all the rejections. But now to come back to answer the question, what was the question again?
I'm just wondering, like, how you guys were able to deal with all of that rejection and such.
No, but it was something else you said prior to that. You didn't.
I don't know.
Well, okay. I'll tell you. No. That was it. Okay. That was the question. The way that I learned how to do that is through watching, learning, and being mentored by Sheikh Khalid and Abdullah Nafis. Mm-hmm. They turned all the negatives into positive. Anything that came negative, because they had more experience than I had at that time. Mm-hmm. And when I seen them taking something that if you get 10, 15, 20 no, you say, man, I'm out of here. I'm finished with this. Man, right. I'm going to the movie. I'm going to Starbucks, or I'm going somewhere, but man, I'm out of here. I ain't dealing with this. But the spirit and the skill that they had, they were able to turn the negatives into positive by making what they was doing something that they enjoyed, something that they loved. So people pick up on vibrations, people pick up on different things. So because they had the skill and we realized that we were master psychologists throughout the 50 years. We were master psychologists. So they had the psychology of how to deal with people on whatever level they were. If you want to be on a dog level, we could deal with you on that level. If you want to be on an intellectual level, we could deal with you on that level. If you want to be in between, we could deal with you with that level. But because of the love and how they turned it into something that was enjoyable, changed the whole scenario of all the rejections.
I like that. I learned a lot from that. All right. So let's see. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions from Brother Omar, or one takeaway? You all can leave a takeaway as well from your listening to Brother Omar's story. You know, Brother Omar, I want to thank you so much for enlightening us and just sharing a little bit about your life with us. As I said, you know, there are a couple of things that I've learned. There's a lot of things that I've learned, but I watch people and I watched you, of course, you know, having the opportunity to work with you on this project. And you know, I learned how to be a team player. You know, I really learned how to be a team player and to really get behind projects that I feel are important for society, you know, for the broader society. And that's a big takeaway that I think, as you mentioned, as far as us being able to unify and come together and work together, we have to have everybody on different things, different levels, right? You have to have a lot of different people doing different things. So I've watched you be a servant leader, you know, a servant leader. And that is a beautiful thing to see. So may Allah continue to bless you with everything that you are doing, all of the projects, your own family, your own sustenance and your own scale, you know, may it weigh very heavily on the good side from all of the sacrifices that you have made over the years and continue to do so today.
Thank
So
you.
you are
Thank
definitely
you.
a beautiful soul, and we appreciate Allah for you, and we
Thank you.
thank Allah for everything that you've done. Any last words that you want to say?
Yes, thank you. You're a phenomenal host. And like I say, I hope that one day, I'm reading a book right now called The Illusion of Money.
Mm,
And this book is by Kyle Cease. And he's hitting on some things that I was sharing with a brother in Memphis, Celine, very beautiful brother, pioneer down there. And this book is explaining the abundance of resources that we have within us.
mm,
And most people think when they accumulate all the exterior things outside of themselves, that's their real success. But I tell you, you have an abundance of inner wealth and inner value that's greater than anything that you can look for externally on the outside of yourself. Okay. I want to say that. And then the
mm,
other thing I want to say is that I've been close, closely monitoring the Muslim Journal. And one of the things that I was saying about unity and coming together and working together, the Muslim Journal is falling apart day by day. The
mm,
Muslim Journal has a history that I could write a book on of what was done selling 100,000 papers a week, 1.2 million papers a month. Okay, somebody was busy, somebody was doing something. This is the history of the Muhammad Speaks up to the Bilalian News, up to the Muslim Journal. But the point I want to make and wrap it up real quick, the Muslim Journal is suffering. And I believe it might have a life expectancy, ready to die. And I've been working with Mark Shahir very closely on ways that we could bring it back to life. So, on the point of unity, I think that with your team and what you have, we need to come together and have a meeting with Aisha and create a Muslim Journal magazine and a Muslim Journal editing and publishing company connected to it so that we can keep our legacy of all our hard work, all of what we sacrificed for is going down the drain because we don't have any unity amongst ourselves.
mm. Yeah. Well, don't make me cry. at the end. But yeah, alhamdulillah, I hear the passion, in your voice, and I think, like nobody wants to sacrifice 50 years and then see something go down the drain, right? Like that's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time and a lot of effort that's going into it. You know, I think you're absolutely right. They say, what is the proverb? It says that until the lion can write their own story, the stories will always glorify the hunter, right? Until the lion can put pen to paper, the stories will always glorify the hunter. And we're in that position right now. And the thing is that we have, as you said, we have the resources, we have everything that we need in order for us to preserve our legacy, in order for us to preserve our history in our own way, right? So that no one else can take it and no one else can misrepresent it at all. And I admit that I have been on the periphery. Like I have not been doing, this is just me personally, I have not been doing a lot in the community as I used to, back in the day. Just lots of life, stuff going on.
Yeah.
But as you said, that it's all of us have to be our own soldiers in our own way, right? Some people are going to be outside, and pulling people in, going down to concerts or something and pulling people in, or being out on the street and pulling people in. And then others have other things that they have to do. So there are soldiers in every field. You have to pick what you are called to do, what your skill set is, and then you have to, find your bullets, as you said, whatever your things are that you're supposed to do. So I take that, from you, and I hear you, and I'm hoping that any of the young people, younger-ish, folks that are listening to this, I guess get serious. That's the best way I could say, like for
Absolutely.
us to get serious and move
Absolutely.
forward.
We have so much of value inside of us. And we have so much that we've always over the years have shown the world, from the Frederick Douglasses and to the Tillmans and to, Sojourner Truths and, all the inventions and all the things that we did. We've shown the world that no matter what you put us through, we have the tenacity to deal with it and go through it and come out on the other end. So all I'm saying is that we need to reassess where we're at with our commitment to our
Mm,
own destiny and our own life as a community of Muslims. And what are we going to sacrifice for young folks for the next 50 years?
for the next 50 years. All right, Sister Lydia says, I really enjoyed this. He is truly a beautiful soul. Thank you, Sister Lydia, for joining us. Sister Davine joined earlier. She said she likes that. I think that was with your talk when you were saying about like renting out one of the big stadiums or something for like leasing out one of the big stadiums around Eid and stuff like that. Sheikh Khalid said, may Allah preserve our efforts. I mean. All right. So, Brother Earl, thank you for joining us. Zainab, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of you all taking the time and listening. Please share these videos. I don't know what I'm going to do with these long term. I don't know if I'm going to put them on the website or whatever. Lots of people keep asking different things. I don't know yet. But what I do know is that if we have the ability to hear it right now, and if you got something out of it, please share it with somebody else, right? Like that's ultimately what our job is supposed to do. We learn something, we take the knowledge in, and then we act upon that knowledge. So you've listened to Brother Omar today talk about how they sacrificed, talk about the actions that they actually took. So if you learn something from his talk, it's not just enough to be like, oh, I listened to this nice interview and I heard this gentleman talking about some of the history from the nation and coming in and cleaning up and all of that. Like if you heard anything that motivates you to take an action, that's your job. Like you listen to him, but now you need to actually take an action and put it into your own life. So, Brother Omar, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karina.
Appreciate you.
Same here. Same here.
Yes. And for those who missed it, you can go get the book, Sheikh Khalid Amin Dawa, The Lost Art of the Call of Islam, a physical, spiritual, and social healing. Sheikh Khalid, I'm gonna have you on too one day, so I'm gonna interview you as well. I'm gonna send you an email, inshallah, to set it up. All right, love you all.
Thank you. Love you too. Love you all too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.